The most dangerous book in history is one that you've likely never heard of. A text so ancient, so powerful, that it shaped empires, divided religions, and changed the course of history. Yet most of the world remains oblivious to its true significance. This book isn't hidden away in a vault or locked behind secrecy. It's been right in front of us the entire time. The Septuagint, an ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, is more than just a translation. It's a key to understanding how power and faith intertwine, and why the truths hidden within its pages were considered so dangerous that they reshaped the foundation of spiritual belief for millennia. The Septuagint. It's a name that, to many, might sound unfamiliar. Yet, this ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible holds incredible power, shaping the very foundations of faith as we know it. Written over 2,000 years ago, the Septuagint is not just a translation. It's a battleground of ideas, where faith, interpretation, and authority collide. But why is this translation so dangerous? Why did it spark centuries of theological debate and shape empires? What if the act of translating sacred texts from one language to another didn't merely preserve the original meaning, but transformed it? And what if, in doing so, it altered the destiny of religions and nations alike? Prepare to dive deep into the mysteries of the Septuagint, the translation that changed everything. You'll discover how small changes in words, phrases, and meanings triggered monumental shifts in theology and power, leading to a legacy of hidden knowledge and esoteric truths. The origins of the Septuagint. The story begins in the 3rd century BCE in Alexandria, Egypt, a city that was a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and religions. Greek was the dominant language, even among Jewish communities, many of whom could no longer read the original Hebrew scriptures. So, under the reign of the Greek pharaoh Ptolemy II, a group of Jewish scholars was commissioned to translate the Hebrew Bible into Greek. Legend says 72 scholars, working in isolation, each translated the Torah. Yet when they reconvened, their translations were identical, word for word. This miraculous event gave birth to the Septuagint, a translation that was seen as divinely inspired. But from this moment forward, the Septuagint would become a tool not only of religious devotion, but of theological power struggles. The power of translation. What makes the Septuagint so dangerous is not just the fact that it is a translation. It's the reality that every translation is an interpretation. Language is more than just a collection of words. It's a reflection of culture, of history, and of worldview. And when sacred texts are translated, those cultural and historical filters affect the meanings that emerge. Take, for example, Isaiah 7 verse 14. In the Hebrew Bible, the word used to describe the woman who will give birth to a child is Alma, which means young woman. But in the Septuagint, this was translated as Parthenos, meaning virgin. This subtle shift is more than just a linguistic change. It's a theological transformation. The Septuagint's translation would later be used to support the Christian doctrine of the virgin birth of Jesus, a core belief in Christianity that may have never existed if the word had been translated differently. But is it possible that this change was intentional? Or could it have been a natural result of the cultural and linguistic differences between Hebrew and Greek? Whatever the answer, the implications are profound. This shift shaped the very foundation of Christian theology, creating a divide between Judaism and Christianity that still exists today. The role of the Septuagint in Christianity. The early church embraced the Septuagint as the authoritative version of the Old Testament. For the early Christians, the Greek-speaking world was their mission field, and the Septuagint provided a ready-made bridge between the Hebrew scriptures and the Greek language in which the New Testament would be written. This was no small matter. In fact, many of the quotations of the Old Testament found in the New Testament are taken directly from the Septuagint, not the Hebrew Bible. This means that the very foundations of Christian theology were built upon a translation that subtly differed from the original Hebrew texts. This is where the danger of the Septuagint becomes even more pronounced. Christianity, as it spread through the Greek-speaking world, used the Septuagint as a tool to connect with its audience. But in doing so, the early church may have been inadvertently, or perhaps purposefully, altering the theological landscape. The Septuagint provided justification for doctrines that would later become cornerstones of the Christian faith, doctrines that were not as clearly articulated in the original Hebrew texts. The Jewish rejection of the Septuagint. As Christianity began to spread and gain power, the Jewish community became increasingly wary of the Septuagint. For centuries, the Septuagint had been a respected translation within Judaism, but as Christians began to use it to justify their beliefs, Jewish scholars started to distance themselves from it. By the 2nd century CE, there was a concerted effort within the Jewish community to discredit the Septuagint and return to the Hebrew scriptures. This marked a significant turning point. The Jewish rejection of the Septuagint was not just about language, it was about authority. By rejecting the Septuagint, the Jewish community was reclaiming its own theological authority, resisting what they saw as Christian attempts to co-opt their sacred texts. But the damage was already done. The Septuagint had become the foundation of Christian theology, and its influence would continue to shape the Western religious landscape for millennia to come. The political and cultural forces behind the Septuagint. The Septuagint was not created in a vacuum. It emerged during a time of significant political and cultural tension. The Jewish people were living under Greek rule, and this context undoubtedly influenced the translation. Greek rulers had their own religious beliefs, their own cultural norms, and their own political agendas. Could it be that the translation of the Hebrew scriptures into Greek was shaped, consciously or unconsciously, by the political and cultural forces at play? Was the Septuagint altered in ways that made it more palatable to the Greek rulers, or more aligned with their worldviews? We can never know for sure, but history shows us that religion and politics have always been intertwined. Throughout the ages, powerful leaders have used religion as a tool to control the masses, and sacred texts have often been manipulated to serve the interests of those in power. The Septuagint, as a text that bridges two powerful cultures, Jewish and Greek, may have been shaped by forces beyond the control of the translators themselves. The esoteric knowledge within the Septuagint. But beyond the political and theological implications, there is another layer to the story of the Septuagint, an esoteric layer. Hidden within the pages of the Septuagint are mystical truths, secret teachings that were perhaps never meant to be revealed to the masses. The translation of the Hebrew scriptures into Greek didn't just change words, it changed the spiritual landscape. Greek, with its rich philosophical tradition, lent itself to new interpretations of ancient Jewish teachings. Concepts like the logos, the divine word or reason, became central to early Christian theology. But this idea was rooted in Greek philosophy, not Hebrew scripture. The Septuagint became a doorway, a portal through which Jewish mysticism and Greek philosophy could intermingle, creating a new spiritual synthesis. But this synthesis wasn't always clear to the average believer. Instead, it was the scholars, the mystics, and the theologians who understood the deeper meanings hidden within the text. Even today, scholars and mystics continue to explore the hidden meanings within the Septuagint. Some believe that the translation holds keys to understanding the mysteries of the universe, that within its pages are coded messages about the nature of God, the cosmos, and the human soul. The legacy of the Septuagint. So what is the legacy of the Septuagint? On the surface, it is a translation, a bridge between the Hebrew Bible and the Greek-speaking world. But beneath the surface, it is much more. It is a reminder of the power of words, the danger of interpretation, and the thin line between revelation and manipulation. For Christians, the Septuagint remains a foundational text, one that shaped the very development of their faith. For Jews, it is a reminder of the dangers of translation, of the risks of losing the true meaning of sacred texts. And for mystics, it is a treasure trove of esoteric knowledge, a text that holds within it the keys to spiritual enlightenment. But perhaps the most important legacy of the Septuagint is the lesson it teaches us about the nature of Scripture itself. Scripture is not static. It is living, breathing, and constantly evolving. The Septuagint challenges us to question what we think we know about the Bible, to dig deeper, to explore the hidden meanings within the text, and to remain open to the possibility that there is always more to discover. The Septuagint is more than just a book. It is a mirror, reflecting the complex interplay between faith, language, and power. It is a reminder that translation is never neutral, that words carry weight, and that the act of interpreting sacred texts can shape the course of history. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey. If you found this video enlightening, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insights into biblical stories and their hidden meanings.